Welcome to another edition of Big Whiteboard Wednesday, and today we're going to be talking about creating down the line speed. So this is really aimed at level 3 surfers. Level 3 surfers are when you can go out the back, catch waves under your own steam, so you're not relying on one of us being out there helping you get in the right place and getting into the waves. You're catching waves well, but typically you are starting to come down the front of the wave and get caught back in the white water, or you're angling a bit too much and accidentally coming up off the back of the wave. So we're just going to talk about angling your takeoffs and drawing a line going across the wave so that you're going as fast as you possibly can, okay? So the first thing is, and this is something that we'll talk about in the Finding Spot X Big Whiteboard Wednesday, which you guys can find, but we want to take off in Spot X, and that means the critical part of the wave. That means the part of the wave that's closest to the white water, right there. So we're hunting that down, we're paddling to it, we're not taking off right out here on the shoulder. Do you get my picture? We've got the white water breaking here. If you were inside the barrel, you just see the nose of your board sticking out right there, okay? So we're taking off on our wave and we're wanting to surf across it. Now, first of all, we need to figure out, how much we want to angle our board off the takeoff. Well, if we don't angle it enough, we're going to go straight down the wave, out in front of it here, and then we're going to end up back in the white water again. If we angle it too much, we're going to come across really high and come up off the back of the wave and not actually catch the wave. You may experience sometimes if you angle your board really sideways and then you get flipped over, and you may make the mistake of thinking to yourself, oh, that's because I angled the board too much. Actually, it's not. If you get the board sideways and it flips over, it doesn't mean you've angled it too much. It means that when you did angle it, possibly the right amount, you weren't leaning into the wave quite enough. Okay, just a really important distinction to make there. So I'm angling the board, and I want to draw a line that's not so high that I come off the back of the wave and not so low that I drop down and end up back in the white water. Well, that's easier said than done. And actually, a good rule of thumb to say to yourself is draw a line mentally halfway up the face of the wave, right? And what we want to do is trim our board. We're not carving a turn, we're just trimming, okay? And again, check out the trimming and carving Big Whiteboard Wednesday just to talk about the difference between those two types of turn, really important there. Okay, we're going to trim a turn so that we're going across the wave sideways, and we're going to try and draw a line just above the halfway point of the wave, there. You'll always think you're higher up the wave than you are. Whenever we do video coaching lessons, and I always try and get people to do this exercise, it's always the same thing. People drop down the wave here and they're surfing on their board there, going along, thinking they're much higher up it, and if you're lower down the wave, of course, the wave just races off and gets ahead of you. So if you're finding that you're taking off on a wave and the white water is very quickly racing off ahead of you, it just means that you're too low down on the wave. You need to keep your board higher up the face, okay? If you get someone to video you when you're out surfing, you can just freeze frame it and just mentally draw that line across it, or actually draw it across, and just look and see if your board is above that halfway line, okay? So that's what we're trying to do. Now, when do we angle it and how do we angle it? So what we don't want to do is paddle into our wave and then as we're dropping down the wave, start leaning on the side of the board, okay? The reason that we don't want to do that is because the board won't start turning until you start moving, right? And by the time you're moving, you're already dropping down. So what we're going to do is, as you're paddling into the wave, as you do your last 3 power paddles to get you down the front of the wave, you're not going to be looking ahead, but rather you're going to be looking left or right. Even better, left and right. And if the wave is a left, like this picture here, meaning that it's the surfer's left as he takes off or she takes off on the wave, your last 3 paddles, you're going to push the board sideways. So you're actually pushing with your hand to angle the board the right amount, not just leaning on the rail as you drop down the face. And you will get it wrong sometimes, and that's fine. But what's really important is that you're looking back over your shoulder as you angle it. So I've chosen this angle here, and I'm looking back that way, and I'm looking back that way. And if I angled it a little too much and I came off the back of the wave, that's fine, because I was looking over my shoulders and I know what the wave looked like at the moment that I got it wrong. And the next time I'm paddling into a wave that looks the same, I will also be looking back over my shoulder, and I'll say to myself, oh yeah, this looks familiar. Last time I angled this much or that much and it was a little bit too much and I went off the wave, or it was not quite enough and I went down and I ended up back in the white water again. That's really the key. Okay, if you want a little bit more information on paddling into unbroken waves, if you're just making that transition from going from the white water to surfing out the back, then just check out our Paddling into Unbroken Waves Big Whiteboard Wednesday for a little bit more on that. But there you go, a little bit of information about angling your takeoffs and drawing that nice high line to get as much speed going across the wave as you can. Just remember, up here near the top means you've got lots and lots of speed, down here near the bottom means that you haven't got nearly so much speed. Okay, so nice and high above that halfway point. Thanks for joining me. See you guys next time.